It seems to be a watch collector universal experience to have some kind of grail watch. This is a piece that you lust after for weeks, months, even years. You read forum posts, you watch YouTube videos, you look at a ton of photos every single day, and you know it's your next big purchase. And maybe one day you do make that purchase and it lives up to those expectations that you set in your own head, and it's wonderful. But sometimes you buy that watch and it doesn't work out, and in the flesh and on your wrist it just isn't what you dreamed of. And that's what happened to me. Today I want to talk about that experience of looking for a grail watch, finding it, buying it, and being disappointed, and now since selling that watch. And so without further ado, let's get into the video. But before we get started, I want to ask you all, have you ever been disappointed by a grail watch? A watch that you looked at for so long and then you finally got it and you just didn't like it? What was that watch? Let me know in the comment section down below if this has happened to you, and what were the reasons that you sort of found yourself moving away from this watch and eventually selling it. So in my case, the grail watch that I was looking at and eventually bought was the Cartier Santos Galbet XL reference 2823. Now, as some background, of course, this is part of the Cartier Santos family. The Galbet word really just refers to the curving of the case sort of around your wrist. It really is a nice wearing watch, sort of hugs around the circumference of your wrist, and it's obviously a beautiful piece. I mean, you can just look at the videos and photos I'm sure I'm putting on screen right now. It sported a 32mm case. That's what the XL size is. That 32mm case, of course, is a little misleading. It wears more like a 36mm. It also has an ETA-based automatic movement in the back and has 100 meters of water resistance, of course, also sporting a nice steel bracelet. And when I found this watch, I was absolutely in love, of course, like we all are with our quote-unquote grail watches. And so I was looking at this watch every day, monitoring the prices, and eventually bought it. But what led me to actually buying this watch, and of course what ended up annoying me about it to eventually sell it? Well, I came to buying this watch because over the past year and a half I actually owned a few different Cartier Santos Galbet references. Those were in the 29mm size with a quartz movement in the back. Those references are the 1564 and the 987-901. Now, I really enjoyed those references of the Cartier Santos Galbet, but the issue was it had a quartz movement inside, like I just mentioned, and the inner watch snob in me just couldn't help myself. I knew I needed to move on to an automatic version of this watch, and that's where I found the reference 2823. So now we're basically all caught up. That's how I found out about this particular reference of the Cartier Santos, and I of course ended up looking at prices for quite a while and pulling the trigger. And I wasn't even disappointed upon my initial inspection of the watch. I mean, photos can show you that this watch is a beautiful piece, and I was not disappointed when I pulled it out of the box for the first time. But really, upon wearing it for a few weeks is when I actually realized some of my major problems with the watch that eventually led me to selling it. The first thing that kind of turned me off to this watch was really the ETA-based movement that it had inside of it. Obviously, I knew what the movement was before I went into the purchase, but after wearing it for a while, I just couldn't help but think I wasn't getting the best value for money on my purchase. I mean, this is a watch that was around $5,000, and I wasn't getting anything particularly advanced inside of the watch. Of course, it being an ETA-based movement means it's going to be relatively easy to service, but there was nothing technically super impressive about it, and I just felt like I should have been getting something a little better for the money. But really, the second thing about this watch that really just I couldn't see past was the bezel picking up an absolute ton of scratches on a day-to-day basis. Now, any Cartier Santos owner will know this fact. This is a known thing about Cartier models with that shiny bezel. They are absolute scratch magnets. But for whatever reason, in my stupidity, I thought, you know what, I'm going to treat this watch better than any watch I've ever owned, and I will make sure it never gets a single scratch. And it's just not how it works out. You know, it felt like every time I put the watch down, I would pick it up with a new scratch, and it's just for whatever reason a watch that's very sensitive to those scratches. And maybe because the bezel was sort of my favorite part of it, or maybe there's another reason, but it's just something I noticed non-stop. I mean, I have other watches with scratches, and that's part of the experience, but you know, for this particular model, I just couldn't see past it, and I just had to sell it. Now, I know what you're thinking. This guy is crazy, and you are right. But, you know, in my mind, this is kind of part of the watch buying and collecting experience. We buy a watch, we find a reason to move on from it, and we get something else until you really find that watch that truly is absolutely perfect, or at least that is how I go about watch collecting. I definitely buy and sell a lot of pieces, and I definitely have some high expectations, but when I find something that is absolutely perfect, then I will keep it forever. Or at least that's what I tell myself to justify this madness. Now on that note, you might be wondering, what did I do with the money that I got from selling my Cartier Santos? Well, I certainly did not put it into a savings account because I'm an insane person and I'm a watch collector, so I have to get something new. And so I ended up purchasing the Grand Seiko SBGW 303. Now this is a really cool 44 GS cased manual winding green dial European limited edition watch from Grand Seiko, and I'm really excited to review it. But you know, the madness continues here. You know, I think this watch will be my next long-term piece, a grail within my collection, and we'll see how this goes. You know, this is something that tends to be a fluid situation, and I'm sure you can all relate. So yeah, I will continue to update you guys as my collection changes and grows. And really the point of this video is to laugh at the watch collecting hobby and mostly myself, but you know, it's because watch collecting for me is very volatile, and I change my mind a lot, and I enjoy that to an extent, and it's also a little crazy making to an extent, but this is the hobby that I really enjoy, and I'm sure a lot of you guys can at least relate to this on some level. You know, changing your mind constantly and always looking for a new grail, a new watch, and changing your mind when you do get that watch. And I really hope that some of you guys can sympathize, but I have a suspicion that many of you definitely can, because you know, I'm on YouTube enough, I'm on forums enough, and I think we all generally are a little bit different if you're you know, in the hobby of watch collecting. But that's pretty much it for this video. If you enjoyed, I'd really appreciate it if you can give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. And again, don't forget to let me know in the comment section down below if you've ever been disappointed by a grail watch and what those reasons were. Alright, I'll catch you in the next one.